All right, folks, Coach Bryant here with Coach Dale. We've got 3 video feeds coming at you tonight. Big thing we want to highlight is how we used our numbers. We had the largest number of folks in this race. How we used our numbers to not only create the winning breakaway, but also we had a secondary group that happened. So we were sprinting essentially for first, second, and also third. We got some preem sprints tossed in, but I think the big thing we really want to dive into is, first off, how this breakaway occurs, and you'll see the intensity of the start of this race. But also, there was a few laps where, if not for teammates, the break with myself and Scott Rollins would not have happened. And you'll see how that takes place, how the team rode great in defense of the breakaway. So I think a lot of valuable lessons that people can take from this whole thing. But here we are, lap 1, already kind of strung out. Mine's the head cam. I know this is going to be a little confusing. I tried to be like a master editor. We're now on Coach Dale's cam. First move going up there on the left with Peter Reed. We're not going to do play-by-play action on this whole thing necessarily. But let us know what you think about having the extra video feeds down in the comments. I try to not swap back and forth nearly as much here in a minute. But
you did.
But I did a lot, yes. So if you take some Dramamine, buckle up, get ready for the action. So
there were several attempts early that didn't stick. People were riding pretty aggressively from the start. It's probably the first 7-8 minutes where there was like no slowdown at all.
Exactly. And when that's happening, so here's a key, regardless of what category you're in, this is the category 1, 2, 3 race, obviously. Regardless what category you're in, when it gets hard, you have to be very attentive to follow stuff. And the likelihood of a break going, the initial hard effort, not real great. The second, the third, the fourth, if there's no slowdowns, that's when a break's going to be much more likely to go. And so I mentioned, our goal here, we wanted to, quote unquote, stack the deck. Dale, you want to talk about what stacking the deck means?
Yeah, so we're just trying to make sure that we have, because we had the numbers, we want the best ratio in any breakaway that occurs. So we don't want a 1-to-1 battle in any breakaway. We want at least 2-to-1 in any move possible. So every time somebody went, we had somebody else to follow, and usually we had, a lot of times we had 2.
Yeah, exactly. So like right here, Mason went, and Kellen immediately on his wheel. Ordinarily, 50% of the breakaway we'd probably be happy with. Mason was a guy we were worried about. Plus, we had numbers, so we weren't happy with it being a 1-to-1. That happened the first Tiger Lane crit, worked out well for us as a team, but we wanted to make sure we had superior numbers. Dale, here you are, keeping the pressure on. That was my favorite edit of the whole thing. As Dale was attacking, bam, pan over to you. And you do a thing here where, you see you've got one on your wheel, and essentially you aren't up there trying to drive this breakaway away.
No, I'm not. I was hoping that more folks would come, but generally you get up the road with one person, and I'll sit up.
Exactly. And again, our goal was stacking the deck. So Newberry goes, you can see it strung out again. So we kind of go further back in the field here. Dale had just been off the front. He's kind of reintegrating back into the group. But it's strung out again. And that's kind of our goal, right? We want to make it hard. We've got a lot of strong people in this race on our team. If you're not familiar with us, I guess it's a good time to say we're the red, white, and blue Team America. That's us. And a move goes off the front. I see it, and it's not superior numbers. We don't have the deck stacked, so I wanted to try to jump across to this. Be attentive. We talked about from last week's. If you didn't catch that, go back and take a look. We talked about looking back. There you go. And knowing what was happening behind you. So on this, I get across to the break. I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on behind. Are more people coming? Are they not? Is this a favorable move? We got one Nashville local. We got Mason. Mason's not happy. He's keeping the pace high. And this sort of is the theme. We want to make sure no one gets a gap. We want to make sure we've got folks on everything. And like we've mentioned already, we want to make sure that we have superior numbers in any move.
Yeah, and every attempt to bridge to the break, we had 1 to 2 people on everything. There's probably only one move in this whole race where you'll see somebody go up the road by themselves and get a decent enough gap without one of our teammates on it.
Exactly. Yeah, the team did great, and it's like it's that initial. You can see Kellen right here. Peter goes immediately. Kellen was responding there, and that's what you have to do. You don't want it to be a thing where you're having to work as well. We want anytime the opposition, anytime your opponent, your competitor is in the wind, you want to be out of the wind. You want to be on the wheel. If you're busy drag racing or if you're having to try to drag someone back, you're burning a match. So our goal here is to make sure we are not we're burning as few matches as we can, and then we're taking advantage anytime our competitor burns a match to go over the top. So here I'm fairly happy with that move, and I wanted to start making sure other folks were burning match. I didn't want to pull that back or go across to that because we had numbers, and I wanted to make sure other folks were going to burn a match as well, and it works out. So we got Richie Schlegel having to go to the front and put a dig in to close this thing down, and then that sets us up. Now we've got two of our competitors burning a match at the same time, which works out well for us. We're all sitting pretty. We're in the draft right now. And it's all, as you can see, still strung out. We're going 20. We were going 27 almost into that corner, which talk about the wind a little bit, Dale. What were we battling there tonight? Because that's obviously very important.
Yeah, we had a tailwind on the start finish. After this next turn here, we had a tailwind, and so basically that makes that drag through the stadium a headwind.
Yep.
And it funnels into that stadium. So even if you have a moderate headwind, it feels worse because it's just funneling into that small space.
Mm-hmm. And it felt like to me over the course of this that it started to become a little bit of a crosswind right here as well, more like a crosstail. So you were essentially getting hit with wind through the whole stadium, almost to corner 4, the final corner before the end of this, which, foreshadowing, makes the right side in that start finish the spot you want to be sprinting from. You don't want to sprint up the left side. You want to sprint up the right side. A little foreshadowing there.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's the better side of the road unless you're into a hard crosswind in the other direction, which we've never gotten.
Yeah, exactly. And the windier the race, the more we like it. We've got some big engines, a lot of times trial style folks. Not a ton of the pure climbers.
Slowdown right here.
Exactly.
7:45, and it's the first time people have just kind of slowed and sat up. And then Scott Rollins makes a move. I don't know if Peter saw him or if he saw Peter, but they were kind of going at the same time. And then we've got a number of people in the move too. So.
Yep. What I loved is pretty much every time someone else went, we had another person following that. That's one thing I love to see is if we've got the advantage up the road and we're happy with it, I want to make sure anytime someone's flying past the front of the race, I want us to have someone on that wheel getting a free ride, essentially. And so we did a great job of that. I gave Preston, right? Preston, I believe, is this Nashville local cycling guy. I started yelling inside right there. You can see him do a little head shake. And this is a preem lap, actually. And so I was planning on trying to carry speed. Everyone kind of slowed up at the front. Pace wasn't really on. So I was like, hey, if you can bag an easy preem and keep the pace high and keep it strung out and possibly launch, another move over the top, perfect. So I take a peek back just to see what happened there. Turns out that was not a $200 preem.
That was your free Lactigo.
That was some Lactigo. That was just some Lactigo. So you can see us up, 3-man move. Don't worry about that. It's actually not 2 teammates up the road. There was 3 of us up there. And look at what we got back behind here. We got Rollins. We got Dale. This was one time that we did miss covering a move. We should have had someone on Tyler with 901 there. You can see the late response. And this is what we want to avoid. So I'm up the road.
We started sitting up through turns and stuff like that just to give the easy gap or give a little head start to noobs there.
Yeah. But if Noobs would have been on that wheel, and then this was the second mistake. So here Kellen is now in the wind going across to Newberry. Newberry's in the wind going across to Tyler. Dale actually on the audio, you can hear yelling at Kellen.
I yelled at a few people.
And that sort of ignites this chase. So there was a 3-person move up the front. Now there's 2 coming across. They end up getting there. We're going to switch to that camera. We got Schlegel. We got Chris Baker from Nashville Local. Tyler and Newberry just made the connection, but Kellen sort of ignited that little move. You could hear Dale yelling. So just like that momentary part of inattention kind of ignited things, and it brought it all back together right here through the start-finish. And this I think was a key move right here. So Newberry, you can see it's fanning out. Anytime you're seeing it fanning out like that, Newberry just kind of squirts up the middle and puts the pressure back on. So he's keeping the pace high. And I would say that was one of the things we did really well in this, was just keep that pace high, keep the pressure on, keep our opponents having to cover stuff, follow stuff. So here I jump on Baker, and I'm not going to help him. We want numbers, but I knew Baker was someone who was super strong, and I had faith that he was going to pull this move back. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, we don't need to jump across to that just yet. Let's see what happens with Chris. There's still strong folks behind us, so I want him to burn a match. And as you can tell, like, look at me on his wheel. I'm doing 354. This is that headwind section, so he's working a lot harder than I am right here. But look at the break, like the gap to Newberry and Peter. Yeah. It's not going out.
I sat up at this point when I was right behind you when we coming into the stadium, and sat up and let you two roll off.
And it's amazing how that works, right? Like sitting up and opening a gap it's the easier way to establish a break versus jumping across to it. Now this is actually the winning move. So Rollins did a good job not taking anyone with him. He attacked in the headwind section. He got to corner 3, which is a pinch point first. I look over at the guys in our group. I didn't want Rollins off solo. I wanted us to continue to have numbers up there. I knew one person the group would be able to control. Chris Baker, you got his teammate, another Nashville Local cycling guy. You got Mason and Peter racing together this week. You got Schlegel. You got the Little Rock guy right here in the screen. There's a lot of strong guys. I didn't want one person up the road. And look how close it is. If you can see going into this corner, top left, that's myself in the break. Look how close it is. If you look in the center, we're right there. And this is like one of the key moments of the race is Baker pulls off. Peter's right behind. Peter doesn't come through right away. Newberry's right there, which is perfect. And that moment took it from being a 1 second gap. Again, disregard. We're going to have a talk with Steve Ehinger about his commentary he put up there. But look, you can see it fan out. You can see it soft pedal. You can see power go to 0. This is like the crucial time of a break. You got to get it to, and we hung it like 15 seconds for 4, 5, 6 laps. Yeah. But look at every move that goes. So there goes a Nashville Local guy, Kellen, right on his wheel, free ride. Dale's in the screen right in front. And he goes to this corner first. He's looking back. He's seeing what's there.
Check the power.
And look how slow.
180.
Look how slow he takes it. Power 180. And now, Dale, I'm going to let you kind of talk through, because what we're going to see here is the team does an excellent job of being in good positions, but you were also not aggressively doing it. I mean, there's a way. Talk to everyone about if a group's trying to chase a move back, kind of talk about the etiquette that's there while also trying to be a teammate helping a move succeed.
Yeah, I mean, you want to slow the chase, but etiquette-wise, you don't want to jump right into push your way into a group trying to chase. That's a D-bag move.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially all I would do is I would sit whatever wheel I could slot into. And so if they opened a gap and there was a gap, I would slot into it. But if they were tight, rolling together and working together, I wasn't going to jump in that.
So right there, perfect. So this is Dale's camera. You moved up in that corner. The break had just been caught because Kellen didn't work with the other Nashville Local guy. You moved up right before the corner, put yourself on Baker. He was trying to flick someone through to help with the chase. Look back, saw it was you. That's perfect.
Yeah, I'm sure he got frustrated when Peter didn't pull through, and then I found myself on him quite a bit because he was doing the majority of the chasing.
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't going easy. I mean,
No.
he was pulling hard. I mean, it was easy at second wheel, but
here's another situation. Peter was pulling, Kellen was second wheel, so now Baker's got to come past Kellen, past Peter, and just those little tiny things gives the breakaway another second, another 2 seconds. Dale's now set up third. Like, they were showing that they were, Schlegel, you weren't fighting him for that position, the guy who's second wheel here. You let him have the wheel. Baker's up front taking a pull, and Schlegel comes through and decides, hey, this, in my mind, seeing this afterwards, I didn't know what was going on up at the front. This is kind of one of those make or break moments, I feel like. I mean, it's a hard dig. You're in his wheel or in his draft.
When he basically sat and stopped pedaling after being out of the saddle, I figured I didn't have to like really put a big effort in to stay right on him. So, I mean, he's a very good time trialist. I mean, Richie is a strong dude. And if he wanted to probably just pound it, I would have been in the struggle bus for a while. But I think he just looked back, and when people see the teammate of the people up the road behind them, they just mentally give up.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating.
Oh, it is, because all that work you just did is going to get offset. If you just pulled 3 seconds back, just getting organized again is 3 seconds. So Newberry right here, he followed a wheel. He followed, I believe it was Mason, and then he's first through that corner. Anytime, and this was what was so nice being up at the front, is I knew you guys were going to be doing everything you could to shut things down, and it was just a matter of us getting that gap out to like 25, 30 seconds. Like, I knew if we could get there, it was going to be over. But I also knew if we could just withstand the first like 5 laps where everyone was, animating, trying to get it, get across to us, I knew you guys were going to be in the right spots. And seeing this afterwards was like perfect. Like, that's what you want. It's what you want to know your team is doing when you're off the front doing a hard 2-person effort. And again, there goes Mason right on his wheel. Kellen, 2 more guys go. Steve, Dale's like, hey, let's keep our numbers here. Like, it's better to have more in this situation. Again, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, every time it was nice being up front, because every time like somebody would go, you could respond, but then even after slotting back in, there was always somebody to take your place further up in the group to grab the next one.
Yup. So again, Schlegel goes, he got a gap. Dale's right on his wheel, goes to the corner, peels off.
I was going to let him pull me.
And, gap's going to open again, because Dale's going to pull in an effort that maybe keeps him on the front, prevents others from maybe coming through, but he knows is lighter than what we are going to be pushing at the front. So it's okay to find yourself at the front. In fact, it could be beneficial if you're a teammate playing that defensive role, trying to help your breakaway stay away. It's okay to go to the front. What you don't do is go to the front and smash things.
Yeah, I mean, trying to stay up front and just anything that came by, if it came by smooth, I mean, it was just slide over, slide in. I mean, if there was nobody on the wheel, I wasn't just going to let them roll forward without me being on it.
Mm-hmm.
There were several times when Chris said, hey, give me that wheel. And I was like, okay.
Yep.
Go for it.
So once again, this is kind of the theme. This is the theme for the night. People are going. We got folks in good position. Dale is in the top right there. He's third wheel right now. Perfect. He's playing that defensive role. Steve's coming back up on the wheel. And this is, again, kind of the theme for the night. What we're going to end up showing here shortly is we got some preem sprints coming up.
Yeah.
Dale's not feeling too happy about that.
Don't make me relive it again.
We're going to relive it for sure. Right here, essentially, the group has been broken. The gap's big enough now where we're starting to get out of sight. You can see the amount of attacking has decreased. We got Peter and Chris. They're trying to work together. Anytime Peter doesn't slot back in, I guess that's the flip side of this. If we'd have missed the move and we were trying to work to pull this back, you can never allow a teammate of the people up the road, the people that are trying to get the break to succeed, you can never allow them to be that second wheel. They can't be behind the guy pulling. If you're trying to keep cohesion, you've got to come back in behind the last person that's actually working. So preem lap here. This one's $25 preem.
Ooh.
But look, there's a lot of folks. In our mind, what are you thinking here, Dale? Going into the corner 4, were you even going to go for this one?
No. With you guys up the road, I'm not big on going after preems. But my mind, I was like, all right, I'll put in a dig and then see if we can continue to roll it, like and just split some more people off. Because Steve was with me too. He got the preem actually, was with me, but then also I think Mason was right on my wheel, so I was like, I'm not gonna keep rolling this up the road. We did have the numbers, but it just didn't make sense to bring somebody that strong up the road with you.
Yeah.
Not knowing what the gap was to you guys.
Yeah, that can always be super dangerous. And
however, though, on the $200 one, I was like, I don't care. I'm going out of the race if that,
Yeah, $200 premium. That's more than the payout for the whole race. Like that's a big premium. People can go home happy with a $200 premium. So here we are. The premium happened. Things sped up, but now look at it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 people at the front. Look how fanned out it is.
And that is not slow motion. We didn't slow it down. That's how fast they're going.
That's just the pace of the group.
I mean, granted, right now we're going 28, but.
Mm-hmm. But again, you can see soft pedal.
Peter gives up. Basically.
So what's now that the brake's established? Is there anything going on in y'all's brain? Like, do we try to get a secondary move going? Are you guys communicating? What's going on there?
Pretty much, it was just follow wheels. Again, we weren't actually ever given time gaps, so we didn't know how far you guys were up the road. All we knew is you were out of sight, which generally on this course is more than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but at the same time, there were a lot of people that weren't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, the fear was, okay, if I go and somebody jumps on it, then I'm just dragging somebody along that is probably fresher than me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you've been covering so much stuff initially. Now you're getting an easier ride right now, obviously, but you've been covering so many things. And it's not as easy to be second wheel as it is to be third wheel. So...
Well, it's just the number of spikes. It's not even like, this is hard, a hard effort, like at times going through some of the straights and stuff. But I did pretty well about like getting small and getting out of the wind.
Mm-hmm.
But the number of like accelerations of covering moves and then doing sprint, like the field sprints or the preem sprints, like it adds up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, each one's a match, right? We talk about a match book.
Gosh.
And that was a segment right there. We were fast forwarding through it, but there was a flow, and we talked about how you weren't fighting for wheels. If people were going to work through, at one point there was 3 folks. You could see that smooth rotation going. That was Dale being respectful of the chase, respectful of folks putting in the effort. You're being patient here.
This is a $200 premium.
$200 premium, and I'm up front essentially telling Rollins like, hey. We got to make sure we keep a good gap on this lap because if they go gangbusters trying to
So the guys up the road hit it so hard, I was like, all right, well, we have people up the road. I had a feeling that Chris wasn't going to let it just roll for $200. So I was like, I'll let him just drag me up, and as soon as we make contact, I'm going to go.
Okay.
And it was a little bit earlier than I had hoped,
Yep.
but I was stupid. I didn't look back and see Mason right on my wheel. Like that was
Dale, what was our theme from the last race?
I know.
Know what's happening in front and behind you.
I should have looked back, and I didn't even look back until halfway down this stretch.
Now, did you say this was your best ever 1 minute or best on the year?
Matched my best all time one. The numbers on the screen didn't, but it was like 600 for 1 minute or just over 600 for 1 minute.
Yeah, when you factor in that first spike and then you factor in the sprint.
Yeah. So, like, I just went so wide on that turn. I should have fanned out and gone on the apex, but I went wide thinking I wouldn't scrub as much speed, but that side of the road is rougher.
Oh.
And he gets me on a bike throw.
Oh.
I mean, kudos to him. He took the much better line. Like, he was much smarter on the start finish stretch.
And he did a great thing by being in your wheel from the jump. So he was essentially getting a break.
Easier for him,
relatively
up to the
speaking.
sprint.
Exactly.
Well, easier in relative. Yeah.
Yep. And then he came up the right side, which Wynn by this point in time was coming slightly from left to right through that start finish stretch. So he came up the correct side too. He was on the sheltered side.
Yeah.
And then this is more of the same.
I was lucky to get back in the group. If had they gone around hard, I probably wouldn't have been able to jump in. But they were just taking over the pace making again. We just kind of sat up until they caught, and me and Mason were both like, "I'm not going to continue to roll," like,
because he knew you were going to work with him anyway. Like if he'd have gone, you'd have sat on.
I'm like, I'm not going to continue. So, when they came through, it was easy enough to jump in, and then it took a few laps to actually get my legs back. But at this point,
one thing we didn't mention is it's 1 billion degrees out.
It is. It's hotter than Hades.
Yeah. I saw probably 10 folks that we coached that had peak all-time heart rate values for like 5 minutes up through 20 minutes.
Yeah.
On this night, not just this race, but this night. It was heat index was what?
107.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was blazing.
They were canceling group rides in town because of the heat indexes.
This again is not slow motion. This is probably one of the other mistakes that kind of happened. Peter goes.
I was tired.
You were tired from that preem. I know it's been a few laps, but still, you've covered a lot of moves. You've gone for 2 preems now, actually.
I was just really hoping somebody else was going to come around at this point.
Yep.
And eventually they do, but
so this is
we
actually
let him get too much of a gap.
Exactly. So he's burning a match, which is great. Is he going to bridge across? Solo, probably not, but third place is still on the line, right? The podium spots are still available. Newberry ends up going big engine. So Scott's taking chase.
And at this point, nobody wants to chase anything.
So what's that tell you? Like, in my mind, anytime like no one wants to chase, if someone should be, then I know they're tired.
Like the fact that nobody jumped on his wheel immediately tells me that everybody's tired, especially Mason or Chris, like super strong dudes. Like everyone's tired.
Exactly. And so this is actually, so Newberry's up the road now with Peter. This is the making of the second group. So the field splits again. So we got myself and Rollins up front, 2 teammates. We got Newberry, who's in the second move. And here we got Steve following Preston, a Nashville local guy, up to the break with Newberry and Peter. So again, our goal was to stack the deck. We wanted the numbers, and we're in a good situation. We were happy with Steve playing it for the sprint. Newberry knew that Steve was going to be the sprinter in this one, so Newberry played the great teammate role. He's covering any surge that happens from Peter. He's ready if Preston goes. He's doing work to make sure it stays away. And that's one where even if it had come back together, it probably would have been okay. But we also like this situation out on the road. I'd rather have 50% of this move of 4 people versus having a group of 15 or 10 or whatever's left behind, because anything can happen. It gets more chaotic the more people that are there.
I'm just in cruise mode at this point.
Dale's just straight chilling there in the top right. Again, I'm up in the top left still, Coach Bryant, and then we're on board with Steve Ehinger right now. Good sprinter. And so we're happy with the situation. We're about ready to come up on the end of the race, so we're going to kind of close it before the end of the race. What final stuff do you have to say here, Dale?
I mean, it's just the big thing is just if you have the numbers, use them. Don't use them. Use them intelligently, and that usually is not like just attacking yourself silly in the first like 10 minutes, and then you having like half a team.
Exactly.
So let other people burn their matches first, and you use your numbers to jump in, get the free gaps, get the free breakaways, and stack the deck. Get more than one person in every breakaway if you have the numbers. and then your probability of a win is so much higher.
Yep. This was one situation, so I guess it'll be the last thing that we'll kind of talk about. Gap just sort of opened, and this sometimes happens. But this is Dale and I were chatting about this beforehand. This gap opens. Newberry's up front. He's getting a free ride. Peter's on the front. Back behind, we have Steve getting the free ride. This would have been a situation, lap and a half to go, possibly go over the top.
Yeah, I would.
Steve obviously has been sitting in for the he's been sitting in trying to get a break, trying to save his legs as much as he can for the sprint.
I mean, they went down to like 17, 18 miles an hour here. They're just playing cat and mouse. So with Preston having had to put in that big dig to pull it back up, I would have gone over the top.
Yeah, that's one where if it suits your power profile, that's probably a 2:15, 2 minute 15 second effort, 2 minute effort. But Newberry would be behind. So something, obviously you feel it out on the road. You know how your legs are feeling and stuff. Here, Scott and I decided, we were like, hey, I'll pull I'll lead it out from the final corner. He had just pulled through that headwind section. So I was going to lead it out, and we were just going to drag race it to the finish line, see who could take it. So that's what happens here. You can see we're not going into it with a whole lot of speed. I take the outside again because that's what I always
Memphis
do.
Skyline.
There you go. Drink it in. Although I was fairly happy with the speeds we hit in this sprint.
Yeah, there were some late attempts to race first, 8th place,
and that was photo finish. Here in the final, Newberry leads it out. Folks, we appreciate you spending your time with us. Hopefully you learned a few things. If there's footage you want to see, if there's tips you want to hear about, let us know. We're going to try to keep bringing some of these races to you. And Dale, what do you got?
Yeah, appreciate everyone hanging out, listening, watching our race footage here. And we'll leave you here with this sprint for 3rd place. Preston takes it.
Spoiler. And then Dale brings it in. You were first to the beer, though, I think, Dale.
Usually.